Hi there. Thank you for joining me today. Do you ever wake up in the middle of the night ruminating on a challenging situation in your life? Maybe you're imagining how a difficult conversation might go. Your stomach may be in knots with all of the tasks you have to complete the next day, the unknowns you might face. Perhaps you imagine the future, the fires, the ice caps melting, that new mole you just found, tomorrow's traffic, your next jury summons. How did you run out of bagels so quickly? The economy, your taxes, that empty milk carton that's still in the fridge. Are you sure you set your alarm? What is this thing that takes hold and keeps the mind spinning in a worried frenzy? This is anxiety. Sometimes anxiety may come in little nervous waves, and other times we get swept up in its nauseating current. Today, I want to teach you how to swim with it, to regain your sense of control and to become grounded when you're feeling anxiety. I'm going to give you some very practical tools and ideas that will help you manage this feeling so that it doesn't manage you. But first, let's look at what anxiety really is and how it differs from regular stress. Stress is our mental and physical response to an external situation that we find threatening or unpleasant. Imagine a pile of dishes that are left out, the email about a new deadline, an unhappy look on a loved one's face. These external situations cause stress, which tends to disappear once the situation is resolved. Anxiety, on the other hand, is an internal reaction we have to stress, where we persistently worry over situations which may or may not actually be happening or presenting a real threat. Anxiety doesn't necessarily require an external trigger, and an anxious episode usually brings a host of physical symptoms, such as those listed on the screen. Now, an occasional episode of anxiety is typical and usually easy enough to recover from. Most people do experience occasional anxiety. But imagine if you had an alarm system for your home that was extra sensitive and went off even when a little squirrel raced by. Imagine that this alarm was going off constantly, waking you up at night and keeping you feeling uneasy throughout the day. That's similar to how anxiety affects people in more severe cases. Anxiety occurs when our internal alarm system gets stuck on and keeps us feeling on edge, even when we're not really in danger. Anxiety is considered to be a disorder when it impairs your ability to function normally. Here's a list of some of the more common anxiety disorders. Since anxiety is so common, it's easy to normalize it and just tolerate its effects. But this is not okay for those who are really suffering. Anxiety can completely erode the quality of a person's life. It isolates. It paralyzes the part of our brain that we rely on to think creatively and problem solve. It can bring deep fear that causes us to avoid important experiences and opportunities. It magnifies our perception of risk while diminishing our feelings of strength and confidence. In these ways, it can cause us to live in the shadow of our true potential. But it doesn't have to. Let's talk about some solutions. I'm now going to share 5 categories of practical, evidence-based strategies that can enable you to actually manage and even alleviate the anxiety you may be experiencing. Reflection questions. When do you experience anxiety in your life? On a scale of 1 to 10, how much is anxiety impacting you? Imagine you're standing in an open field and you look up to see a tornado coming your way. The closer it gets, the more you can feel the force of this powerful whirlwind blowing your way. Things might start to feel blurry or chaotic. Anxiety can affect us in a very similar way. By the time we notice it's there, sometimes it's already too late. Sometimes we already feel unsettled and overwhelmed. The important thing is to be able to ground yourself in your immediate physical reality. Using our senses of sight, sound, taste, touch, and smell, we can become more connected to our physical environment and less likely to get caught up in the swirl of our anxious thoughts. Let me give you some simple techniques to help you do this. Be in nature. Do you ever notice yourself feeling so much better when you can just walk outside and smell fresh air? Nature has many therapeutic properties. For example, just the smell of pine has been shown to decrease heart rate in babies and boost immunity in adults. For young kids, being outdoors has been shown to improve attention spans, test scores, and exercise levels. We all naturally respond to being outdoors, having natural light, being able to smell the things that are growing around us. And it's important that if you start to notice your anxiety levels climbing, walk outside and smell the fresh air around you. I guarantee it's going to help. Belly breathing. When you're feeling anxious, there's nothing better than a few deep breaths to help calm you down. I want to encourage you, whatever is happening, if you notice that your thoughts are becoming more anxious, or you already can feel that anxious response happening in your body, stop what you're doing and take a few deep breaths. But when you breathe, try sucking the air into your belly. You can put your hand on your stomach so that you can actually see your belly start to extend as it fills with air. When you exhale, try to take longer on the exhale, and then even hold for a few seconds before your next inhale. I guarantee that taking a few deep breaths in this way will help you to feel more relaxed and calm down. Mindfulness meditation. When we practice mindfulness, we're practicing being in the present. This helps us to leave the swirl of our anxious thoughts. To do this, it's important to be present to something around you. You might choose an object to rest your attention on. Just take in the object, be present to what it looks like, to the colors, to the textures. As you do this, you might notice that your attention will start to wander, and that's normal. The practice is to gently redirect your attention back to the object that you're trying to be present to. It's helpful to think of your attention as a little puppy that sometimes gets curious and starts to drift. So once you notice your attention drifting, you can pick up that puppy and just bring it right back to what it is that you're wishing to focus on. Consider what you're looking at and what you're paying attention to as an anchor. And being in this state of mindfulness helps you to anchor your attention rather than allowing it to get caught up in the swirl of your anxious thoughts. The final grounding practice that I want to share with you is one of my favorites. It's called the safety token. Have you ever noticed how a young child might have a favorite blanket or stuffed animal, and whenever they're holding on to this object, they just seem to feel safe and more happy? I invite you to identify your own safety token. This could be a rock, this could be a little keepsake. I have a marbled heart that I have had for years that I use, and this is ideally something that you can maybe carry around with you. A safety token is something that symbolizes strength, safety, resilience. This is something that when you're feeling anxious, you can physically hold on to this object and allow this object to ground you in the experience of feeling like you are okay. You can infuse this object with a special power, if you will, of having the ability to bring you complete calm and serenity in your most anxious moments. I encourage you, find a safety token and give it a try. Reflection questions. When might you be able to incorporate these grounding practices? Which ones would you use? Now I want to talk about a practice that can be helpful for anxiety that is based on a fear or phobia. If you have social anxiety, you may avoid social gatherings because you fear disapproval, rejection, or humiliation. If you're afraid of heights, you may avoid roller coasters or tall buildings because you fear falling or being trapped at a high altitude. Anxiety often causes us to avoid the things that make us anxious, but this can also cause us to miss out on experiences that could actually enhance our lives. In addition, when we resist the things that trigger anxiety, that can often make the anxiety worse. By resisting something, our brain signals the nervous system to activate our fight, flight, or freeze response. This response reinforces our anxious thoughts and feelings. It's a vicious cycle that can actually increase our anxiety. The remedy? Try doing the exact opposite. Instead of resisting the dreaded thing or even being neutral towards it, try leaning into the situations that trigger anxiety, assuming they don't threaten your safety. Anxious about heights? Imagine running up the side of a mountain, pretending that you're raising your arms towards the sky while reaching for the highest point in elevation. You feel freedom and exhilaration as you ascend higher. Anxious to perform in front of a group? Imagine that you are presenting something you're passionate about and feel your audience sending you warm, loving vibes the entire time. By viewing the anxiety trigger as a good thing and welcoming it into your presence, you enable your body to shift into a relaxation response. After you've tried this out through your imagination, you may consider gradually and incrementally exposing yourself to your anxiety trigger in real life. This strategy, also known as exposure therapy, is commonly used to treat anxiety disorders. Those with severe anxiety may be better served by having a professional support them with this process. Listen to your gut and decide if this is something that you're really ready for. If you feel it is, start on the level of your thoughts. Imagine something that you felt anxious about and even avoided. What would it look like to confidently welcome this experience, to invite it, to search it out? You move from defense to offense, from hiding to seeking, from anxious to ready. When you feel differently using your imagination, perhaps it's time to begin gradually exposing yourself to this experience. It may take time. Be patient but persistent. Remember, we grow through what we go through. Reflection questions. Does your anxiety cause you to avoid something that could be good for you? What would it look like for you to lean towards this thing through exposure or by welcoming it in? I'm now going to address a practice that reduces anxiety for people who just have too much on their plates and their desks and their dressers and their calendars. If this is you, pay attention. Think of moments throughout the day when your anxiety spikes. Maybe you're running late for appointments, getting lost, feeling behind with a project, losing objects like your keys. What do these situations have in common? You've lost control of your time and space. That loss of control adds a lot of anxiety, and it affects how you feel about yourself. In fact, a recent study found that family and household clutter are the top 2 stressors among most demographics. However, the women in the study were impacted more adversely by these stressors, as their cortisol levels did not drop at the end of the day the way most men's do. Experiencing chronic stress in this way easily puts a person at greater risk for developing an anxiety disorder. Taking a few proactive steps to organize your calendar and your surroundings will reduce anxiety and add peace to your day. What might this look like? These are the 4 Ds. Number 1, declutter. Remove what's not needed. That sewing kit in the miscellaneous drawer you've never used, those lonely socks who have been single for too long but take up space in the drawers, just get rid of them. Get rid of activities that aren't necessary or don't add to your life in a meaningful way. Simplifying your life will reduce feelings of chaos that accompany clutter. Number 2, delegate. What is it that you can pass on? Sometimes we do things ourselves because we want control, but that need for control controls us and adds to the anxiety. Control and be controlled. Release and be released. Maybe it's time to pass that task on to someone else. Number 3, Design a workspace that works for you. Be strategic with how you set up your home and workspace. Make it functional, make it comfortable, make it aesthetically pleasing. Some of us spend our entire lives living in the before pictures of those home improvement magazines. You can do better. And if you're struggling, have a friend who likes doing this stuff help you out. Yes, those people are actually out there. Number 4, develop a plan. It's time to really use your calendar. By writing things down, you will be more clear on your real priorities and better able to stay focused throughout the day. Make sure to give all the little things you need to get done a place on your schedule so that you don't feel the need to carry stray details in your mind. The 4 Ds may sound simple, but if you actually do them, they're transformative and can dramatically reduce your anxiety. Happy organizing. Reflection questions. Where could you use greater organization in your life? What actions would you need to take to create this? Have you ever watched a child become anxious or scared and run to an adult for comfort, reassurance, or even just a hug? The child recognizes the fear and instinctively seeks out the comforting support of a loved one. When we become adults, we still feel afraid. We still have moments of feeling fragile, scared, worried, and upset. But for some reason, sometimes we're less likely to reach out for support. It's good to reach out for support, but it's also important to be able to reach inward and to support yourself during these difficult moments. How do we do this? How can we show up for ourselves with kindness and acceptance? Here's a few suggestions. Create the space to name and process. We can sometimes go through the day under the influence of emotions we're not even fully aware of. But if you're having an anxious day, take a time out. Focus your attention inward. Name what you're feeling. Offer yourself permission to have this feeling without judgment. Want to take it a little further? Try onion journaling. To do this, you simply start by writing down your surface feeling. Then peel away that layer and see if you can identify a deeper feeling underneath that one. Then do it again and again. This process can help us to identify an unmet need or a core belief that may be limiting our happiness. Affirmations. I recommend writing affirmations that are brief and can reassure us of a positive state. Many use affirmations in the first person using I statements, but it can be more effective to speak to yourself in the second person. Here's an example of how this would look. You will be okay. You will get through this. You are safe in your body. You are making great progress. Give yourself a hug. It may sound simple, but as you're doing that, it can't help but to reinforce a feeling of connection and acceptance of yourself. Seek therapy. If you feel stuck or blocked in some way, and even your warmest acts of self-compassion don't seem to get through, consider getting professional support to help you identify and work through what may be getting in your way. Reflection questions. How do you show kindness to yourself? What are some concrete things that you can do to experience self-compassion during these anxious moments? One of the most important things to remember about anxiety is it's not all in your head. It's in your body. While the thoughts you have can trigger an anxious physical response, sometimes it's the other way around. For some, the body is already prone to physical experiences of anxiety. A person can wake up anxious and then look for explanations or be more inclined to view situations through a pessimistic lens. Why would a person be prone to physical anxiety? There are a few possible reasons. Number 1, genetics. Number 2, certain medical conditions such as thyroid disorder. Number 3, hormonal changes. Number 4, traumatic experiences. Because anxiety is a physical experience, we need to treat the body. What does this look like? First, maintain your circadian rhythm. Our bodies are designed to operate on a consistent sleep-wake cycle, which corresponds to our 24-hour day. Ideally, we get 7 to 8 hours of sleep, wake up and have peak activity in the earlier parts of the day so that we can wind down in the evening and our bodies can fall into a natural sleep period. When we don't get enough sleep, our bodies go into survival mode and the nervous system produces more adrenaline to keep us stimulated. A problematic pattern starts to occur when this adrenaline becomes the nervous energy that we live on. This makes it harder to sleep at night, and then, you guessed it, more adrenaline. A vicious cycle starts to occur when people are continually sleep deprived and running on adrenal energy. The feeling that this produces is anxiety, and it's really hard on our bodies, especially our hearts. To support your body's natural circadian rhythm, you can do the following. Go to bed and wake up around the same time every day. Go outside for natural light in the morning hours. Distribute your mental and physical activity towards the earlier parts of the day so that you can naturally wind down at night. Make every attempt to minimize stress and busyness in the evening hours. Avoid caffeine, sugar, and alcohol intake in the later part of the day. Get regular exercise. Even 10 minutes of intense physical activity can change your brain chemistry for hours. Find a form of exercise you'll enjoy and stick with it. Maintain a balanced diet with adequate nutrition. If you find that the suggestions in this video just aren't helping you, or that your anxiety is so severe you're not able to manage it on your own, please talk to your doctor. There may be other medical issues that need to be addressed or other interventions which would be more appropriate for you. If you feel that you are in crisis or could benefit from other outside support, consider the resources on the screen. You may be hearing these strategies and thinking, that's a lot of stuff to do. Well, anxiety requires attention. If you had diabetes or heart disease, there's stuff you would have to do every day to manage it. Anxiety can be just as harmful to our lives, and managing it does require daily maintenance. The good news is that when you're feeling better, things feel more doable. By managing your anxiety, you get to sleep more peacefully, laugh more, perform better on tests and daily tasks, maintain a schedule that actually works for you, and feel more present in the moment. This means that when people engage with you, they get you. Not the distracted, worried, anxious you, but the real you. The you that feels more free, more alive, and more at peace. There's nothing the real you can't handle. So do what's needed to deal with your anxiety so that the real you can start showing up and experiencing the quality of life that you deserve to have. Thanks again for joining me today. If you have feedback about this video, suggestions for future topics, or would like to be notified when the next video is released, please email me at katie@wellnesstalktoday.com. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.